Hey guys, it's Spaulding here and welcome to another video series of our top 10 cards. And 1 year in the making, babies are getting born, everybody is having fun with the game, and we are releasing our hopefully final top 10 cards of all time on this channel. And joined with me today is Darksigner. Hello Darksigner.
Hello guys. Yeah, you are familiar with us two appearing together on the channel, and yeah, like you said, a long time since we started doing these top 10 lists, jumping on the hype train, but we didn't finish the series, and we wanted to bring you the top 10 cards, like overall, not by any civilizations or anything, like just purely top 10.
Yeah. And we also had like a pretty long discussion before on what the ranking could be, and even looking back at our old videos, there are some shakeups, some changing in the order of other cards of other lists in the cards in the lists. So if you, like, for example, look at our top 10 light cards list, you might see a different order than what we have here today. So yeah, everything can change, every list can change, and this is our like most up-to-date solution for now.
Yeah.
And maybe
We
this
also-
will change in the future too.
Yeah, we also discussed like beforehand, like when you made the other videos together as a group with the other guys, we discussed for hours and hours to
Yeah.
get to the list, and then we looked at it before recording this video, and we saw some like not too many changes, but we saw some that we wanted to change. Maybe
Yeah.
we could do like a revision sometimes in the future. What changed like in the civs in the civilization lists themselves? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, it would be a nice idea. And yeah, so starting again, just a reminder on what the in quote rules are for this series. We are looking at the cards, and first we are looking at the playability of the cards. So in how many decks um, could you play, or are you playing this card? In what different decks are you playing this card? Are you playing this card in aggro decks, also mid-range decks, and control decks, or are you only playing it in like one kind of deck? And the second thing is that how powerful a card is. You might see a card like only as a like one off or two off in a deck, or you might only see a card in like one or two decks in general, but there they are so strong. They are just deciding the game when they are played, and that's why we are including them in the list today. So yeah, with that in mind, let's jump right into it. And our number 10 is Warlord Alzunos. This card at the end of our list. I think you are all familiar in what this card does, and just looking at it again, there is like only one deck where you really can play this card, or like one type of deck. In the light water is the most prominent color with the Alzunos. There are also some different variation in like light water nature and like light water darkness, but in the core you would only play it in like this art of deck, and there it is so strong. You always want to see it in your hand, especially on turn 5. The race is not that great in Gladiator. There are definitely better races in Light, and like Guardian and Initiate, but that's why this card is on the list. Although the race is really not that great, this card on itself is so powerful that you build a whole deck around it, and that's why it's on the list.
Yeah, like you said, there are people trying to fit in like a third color. I even saw light water fire once.
Okay.
But in general, yeah, just the light water core, because you have just Hulkers and Magris that are advantage generating aggro mid-rangey cards, and yeah, light water you need it because Surion is like probably the best bait for Azonius with like Gonta stats, but sadly one more mana to cast it, but still it's a very good beater. And yeah, like you said, not the greatest race, definitely better supported ones, but also not bad. You can have you have a decent amount of playable ones. I don't want to say good ones, but playable.
Yeah.
And like you said, you always want to see it. I'm a believer that you should run 4 Azonias in your deck, because you definitely see some lists that are like playing 2 or 3, and yeah, no, I'd rather brick on Azonias than not see it.
Yeah. The reason why you play the deck is the namesake card, so why not just play 4 copies of it? Yeah. And you also play, like you said, water and light with the Magus and Hulkus to have a higher probability to see the Alzunos. You just want to draw cards in the early game to see him or the baits as often as possible. Yeah.
Also, another good thing about the light water core is that it's very good defensively against other aggressive decks. Like you have Surfer and Holy Ore, like 2 of the best triggers against aggressive strategies. So on one hand, you have this good core that is holding off opposing aggro decks, and then your boss monster, the Azonius, is just good against control because they have a hard time outing it. Like, there are outs to it, definitely. Like, we will talk maybe about one later, but like in general, it's like if it comes down in turn 5, yeah, very difficult for any control deck to get rid of it.
Yeah. So the number 9 of or in this list is Miraculous Meltdown, and this is the first of the miraculous spells which appears here. Maybe we will see another one, maybe not. Yeah, this card you usually only see as a one-off in the deck, but this card your opponent has to respect it so much. If he's playing aggro, he has to decide on whether to bring you down to 0 shields or not. This card can turn a completely lost position in a winning position. Super strong. You can build a whole deck around this card too, if you really want to. And yeah, just a really, like, maybe the best anti-aggro card in the game, and that's why it's on the list.
Yeah. Like you said, there is also like a combo around it with Ghastly Drain and Pyrofighter Magnus that can basically win you the game against almost any shield triggers. Like there are a few niche ones like Skydiver and Mana Nexus that play around it, but mostly you can win the game, but not because of those combo decks, like you said, just like generically very good card against aggro. And why I feel this is so good is that the like psychological factor it gives to the game, like it adds a layer where the rush and aggro players need to respect it. Like even if you don't have it, they still have to respect it. It's like a hand guard when you play discard cards. Does he have it or not? And yeah, like these mind games, like putting the opponent to 0 shields or not because you respect it. So either way, it has an effect on the game. If you have it, it can turn the game around and just win on the spot. Or if you don't have it, it can at least like make the opponent think twice about a move he's about to make.
Yeah. I think yeah, we covered everything this card does, and yeah, let's just jump to the 8th place. And in the 8th position we have another light card in Holy Ore, and another 6 mana spell. You all know what this card does, and again, this card is played in a variety of decks. Can be played in aggro decks, like we said earlier, in Lightwater Alzunos. Can also be played in control decks, and for example, Hydro Hurricane or Fortress Burn, where this functions as a like pseudo mass removal. You tap everything down, then kill it with your blocker boosted with Petrova boosted blockers, or like with your Fortress Shells, which are 5k, or Falls, which are 4k. And yeah, as a shield trigger, again, in conjunction with, for example, Emerald in the Lightwater Alzunos deck, your opponent, there's also a mind game in whether you set down a Holy or set down a Surfer, and if you're like attacking it in the shield early and it's a Surfer, you lose the game. If you don't attack in it and it turns out to be a Holy early, you lose the game like some turns later. So yeah, really good card in general.
And a very iconic one, I think. A lot of people will remember this from their childhood. Like, it wasn't the first starter deck, and on the playground, like, everyone had it. It was like, I don't know where I heard this sentence, but I heard that it's like the mirror force of Duel Masters. Yeah, I think it's a cool, very iconic card, and like you said, so versatile. Like it's played in basically any deck type, because like the aggressive decks use it as like this defensive card that can basically buy you a whole turn against other aggressive decks, and that leads to you winning. And like control decks can use it as like defense as well, but also more proactively to like tap down everything, a big board that you're staring against, and then picking apart the creatures. Yeah, a very good card overall.
Yeah, and also in aggro decks you can not only use it defensively and also offensively, and just tapping everything down, every blocker down from your opponent, and then just swing through. So yeah.
Yeah, if you're staring down a blocker wall and like you have put the opponent down to 0 shields, and it's just like I need to top deck Holio and then I win. Like it's a really good top deck card as well, proactively in aggro as well. That's true.
Yeah, your opponent needs to respect you having Holy also. He needs to keep your board clean every turn, which is really hard when you play something like Holkos and Magras and just play like multiple threats at a time. And yeah, really strong card here. So at number 7 we have another light card, and it's Mystria's Sonic Guardian. I think we changed the order here. I think in our top 10 light cards the order was, I think, a bit mixed, but I'm not sure. We put Mystrias in front of Alzunos and Holy Orb because we think that when this card comes down and isn't answered, you are in such a great spot. You have such a huge advantage over your opponent, and even when you support it with cards like Palaolesis or Petrova, or when you get it out ahead of time on like turn 4 with like Blossom Tribe, or even on turn 3 with like the Poisonous Mushroom and Soulswap combination, then your opponent has an even harder time to out this card, and then you can just snowball from there in playing creatures and drawing cards.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, you could argue which card has more impact, because the problem with Rias is that sometimes it feels very underwhelming if the opponent immediately has an answer for it, but at the other time, just having the threat and like the opponent has to deal with it next turn, like there's no chance he's going to do anything else that turn than just removing the Mystrias. So if you have another side plan going on and you can put out Mystrias, that's really good as well, just baiting a removal. And then like if the opponent isn't able to remove it, then you're just going to snowball so much from there that it's like very hard to come back.
Yeah, definitely. And again, knowing that you play Mystrias, your opponent like won't charge his Volcano Charger or won't charge his Miraculous Snare, will hold them up for your Mystrias, and then maybe you just don't play the Mystrias and they are stranded with some removal spells which aren't helpful at the moment. So yeah, again, this little mind games in the dueling process. I think this is what makes this card really great, and just having it in your deck, your opponent has to respect it because when it comes down, as we said, giving one turn, and you could be miles ahead.
Yeah, another point going for it is that it's in a better race than like Alzunos.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Guardian is like arguably the best race. Like it's either Guardians or Initiates. One of
Initiate.
those
Yeah.
two, yeah. And that definitely helps, like with cards like Petrova or Zombie Carnival, that just boosts races
Yeah.
in general. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's played in control decks and like Hydro Hurricane, and it's played in like mid-range decks, for example, Wave Strikers, and also in aggro decks like the Light Water Nature, Tribal Swarm, aggro decks. So yeah, really
Yeah.
hugely
Yeah.
played card. So getting lower and lower to the next rank, number 6 is Skysword, the Savage Vizier. Again, a light card, but also nature. This is definitely a card which has changed its position, because in our multicolor video, the Miraculous Meltdown was ahead of Skysword, but as we said in the year difference, we just realized that Skysword is, in our opinion, so much more versatile, so much better in like every deck that control decks are playing it at 4, mid-range decks are playing it, aggro decks are playing it. The extra card to the shield and the mana is really huge in like every situation. Even if you play against aggro, then this card is totally busted. If you play against control, this card is also really great in getting you ahead in the Lost Soul race, for example. And yeah, that's again really good races here with Beastfolk and Initiate, and this card is just like the most powerful, maybe the most powerful multicolor card in the game.
Yeah. Nothing much more to add. Like you said, against aggro, this, especially in combination with Soulswap, basically puts up such a wall of shields that your opponent can't get through them. And yeah, if you want to compare it to like Meltdown, the other multicolored card we had on this list before, yeah, Meltdown can totally swing the game for in your favor when you resolve it. But on the other hand, if you just play Sky Swords, you probably won't end up in a situation where you need Meltdown.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, Meltdown is like the last saving option, and Sky Sword is just like, yeah, you deal with the problem before it even becomes a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, and even like maybe surviving like one more turn to get to your 6 mana to play the Meltdown, because sometimes you just die before you get to 6 mana and you can even play the Meltdown, and Skysword helps you there in getting like maybe like one more extra shield and one more extra turn to, and the creature of course on board to swing when you play Meltdown. So in the combination, again, really great. And also when you play this makes all shield trigger cards in your deck immediately better, because you have like one more chance, not only the 5 chances, the 5 shields at the start, but also like maybe the 6th, 7th, maybe 8th, even more chances to hit, to get one of your shield triggers into your shield. And yeah, so we see this card often in combination with something like Terror Pit or Aqua Surfer, like, or even Holy Ore, the best shield triggers in the game. It makes them even more reliable, more stronger.
Yeah, and like you said, like worst case scenario, it's just like Bronze Arm Tribe number 5 to 8 in the control matchup.
Yeah, and also if you some decks picked up like Ghastly Drain in the control decks, and there with Ghastly Drain you get back some shields, and if you have like 6, 7, 8 shields, you will get back more cards out of them, so more card advantage for you even in the control decks. So yeah, getting lower, and our next card on the list is, or are, multiple cards, and we made this also in our top 10 fire cards, that we concluded all the fire mass removal into one card. We even tried to rank the cards, maybe like here from Epoch down to Mecha Dragon's Breath. But for example, if we made like in our top 10 fire cards video every card like one by one, then I think like from the top 10 cards, like 4 cards would be only like Fire Master, which would be kind of lame. So we decided to conclude them into one spot, and here we have it on our number 5, I believe.
Yeah, number 5.
Yeah, number 5. Yeah.
It's
And
also it's difficult to rank them and like really say which one is better than the other, because it's really deck type dependent, because like they are so versatile, many decks use them. It's not like it's only a control thing to play mass removal, but like in control decks, different mass removal is better. Like aggro usually can play like the searing, make use of the searing more, because it's the cheapest one. You don't really mind losing a shield because you're the aggressor anyway. And yeah, it's just better in like an aggro deck. Meanwhile, like something like Blizzard is better in control because you don't mind losing your own board. And yeah, then probably like I think Mecha Dragon is probably the worst one if you want to give them ranks, because that's like more of a meta call if you expect like Hydro Hurricane or like Petrova decks in general, and maybe stuff like Wave Strikers. But I think the rest, it really depends. Like some aggro decks can run Burst Shot if they have a lot of 3 and 4K beaters as defense. Yeah, but Epoch is mostly like a mid-range control card, but yeah, has like the most versatility probably out of all of them, because it can also just be like a 1 mana more to cast a pit on something big. But also, yeah, you can not only hit like 1 and 2Ks like Burst Shot, but also like 3Ks or like 1 4K dude and some other, like, yeah, it depends what your deck needs and what your deck supports to play.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, and speaking in general, Fire Master removal, basically every time you play Fire, you have to consider these cards. I think the exception is of course like Fire Nature Rush, where you don't get to even like 5 mana, for example, usually. But in every deck you play Fire, or maybe this is even the reason you play Fire, just to have like an out to your opponent swarming the field. And every control deck which plays Fire has to decide which of these cards do I want to play, and in which combination. For example, if we take your Phobos control list, you play like 3 out of these 5 cards in like a different number. You play 1, 2
Actually,
Apocs.
even 4.
Or even,
even 4. Burst and Apoc. Only Searing Witch was at one time also in the deck, like that, to show how good these cards are. And yeah. And even for your Fire Nature Rush example, it's not a very good idea. It's probably even a bad idea, but it doesn't seem too outlandish for me to pack in Burst Shot as like two off against just like specifically the mirror match. Like in the mirror match, if you're behind and the opponent hits into a burst, you don't mind losing some of your stuff as well, if you can then like clear their board and win yourself first. Not the greatest, but also like not the worst thing I have seen. For
yeah, definitely. Yeah, so moving on the list, and now we are at like the third place, the bronze place here.
No, it's actually number 4 first. Number 4.
Damn, I'm like, I can't count.
Close,
I'm like
close.
Fire Nature, and I'm like a Fire Nature Rush player. Oh damn.
You can't count to 4.
Yeah. Okay. Then next, maybe next card I clicked now is Lost Soul, and maybe for the next time I will put some numbers in the top left corner so I can remind myself. But yeah, Lost Soul. only one line of text. I love this about Duel Masters. There is not so much text on the cards, so you can see what this card does immediately, and this card reads your opponent discards all cards from his hand, and you don't need more. You basically control mirror matches. Maybe decided, even I would say, by getting first 2 Lost Soul and discarding the whole hand from your opponent, and yeah, just a really, really strong effect here.
Yeah, also as a comeback tool in the control mirror match, like we discussed about Mistrias earlier, like one of the only like comebacks maybe is that you top deck Lost Soul into like 4 or 5 cards from the opponent, and then the opponent like misses a creature and like top decks a spell or something. And that is something that can get you back into the game. Yeah, but like you said, I think control mirrors often are decided who gets to cast Lost Soul first, but because one, you like deplete all the resources from the opponent, and because you were there first means you also have the mana advantage, and like from there on the top deck war should be in your favor. And yeah, nothing on the card's playability itself, but I think it's quite fitting that you forgot the place we were on with Lost Soul, because take a read at the flavor text of it.
Oh, yeah, maybe I'm getting forgetful. Yeah, that's true. That's fitting.
So funny. I immediately I don't remember many flavor texts in Duel Masters because they're not really game relevant, but that one is like so short and fitting for the card as well, and
True.
like this situation, that's good.
Yeah.
Would be fun if we scripted it, but it's actually
no. Maybe it is. Maybe no, it's not. And yeah, Lost Soul not only getting played in like control decks, it's also of course getting played in mid-range deck, and I think most prominently in Rub mid-range, but also getting played in aggro decks where you have like the Water, Nature, Darkness deck, or even just Water, Nature with a splash of Darkness to play this card. So the strategy is to attack early on, so your opponent will get cards in his hand from his shields, and then you followed it up with a huge Lost Soul where you hit like 4 or 5 cards, and your opponent will struggle to recover with a low shield amount and no cards in hand. So when you play an aggro deck with Darkness and want to support this card, you always look at Nature and at like Blossom Tribe to get ahead in mana to play your threats, but also get closer to Lost Soul, because if you are playing it naturally on turn 7 in your aggro deck, then you could just play like a Twin Cannon, for example, and end the game. So you have to get ahead in mana with like Poisonous Mushroom, with Blossom Tribe, to get to this card. But even in aggro, you can play it.
Yeah. Also, we talked a lot about its applications, like against control, and it's not completely dead against aggro as well, to be honest. Like against rush, yeah, you don't get to 7 mana without losing, and if you do, you should be winning without Lost Soul. But even against like aggros that don't like kill you that fast as Fire Nature Rush, it's not a bad card. If you like, if all the opponent does is plays cards that draw him cards, then it is a like, yeah, you have to risk hitting a hand guard. That's a thing, but sometimes it's a good play to just Lost Soul them and then keep them on top deck mode. That makes it easier to deal with their board as well.
Yeah, for example, if they played something like a Lucky Ball or like Illusionary Merfolk and have like multiple cards in hand, or even just like a bounce back Pyrofighter Magnus, which is getting back to hand and you have to remove this card from the hand, then yeah, Lost Soul is great.
Exactly. Also sometimes, the threats of like Jagels or Twin Cannon, Pyrofighter, like if you suspect the opponent having speed attackers, then they are probably more dangerous than what's already on board. So overall very, very good card. That's why we rank it so high.
But now we are getting to the third place, and on the third place we have our first water card in Aqua Hulkus and Energy Stream. And again, different decks. You play one of these cards. In control deck, you tend to go more to the Energy Stream, and in Aqua midrange cards, you tend to go more to Aqua Hulkus. But yeah, again, Aqua Hulkus, if you compare to the Holy or very iconic card, came out in the first set of the Duel Masters TCG. And again, a really simple card. You play it, you draw a card, but the effect is really strong. And also Energy Stream is like the pot of greed of Duel Masters. Draw 2 cards, and every time you play water, you will see these cards.
Yeah, like the bread and butter of the civilization. Like when you think of water, you think of draw power, and like that's mostly the reason you want to add water into your deck, is to draw cards and like see your cards more consistently, or like see your win condition faster, or just in general generating advantage, like turn after turn. Both are like +1s. One has like the additional benefit of a body, and the other one gets you deeper into your deck. So yeah, both very simple cards, like you said, but yeah, very powerful.
Yeah, you can play it in every deck which plays water, and yeah, I think nothing more needs to be said about these cards. And yeah, the silver medal is going to our
Bronze.
good and old Bronze tribe. Yeah.
Maybe we should have ranked him third, so the colors of the medals are matching.
Yeah, maybe. Again, coming out in the base set has some really busted cards, and again, pretty simple. You put this creature in the battle zone, and the top card of your deck is going into your mana zone, and getting ahead in mana, getting ahead of your opponent, being the first player who's playing more powerful cards with more mana, is basically in any card game the goal or the aim you want to go for. And yeah, Duel Masters is no different here. Borsam Tribe is a buddy which can be used later for a Soulswap play, or can be used later to just turn sideways, attack your opponent. You will see this card in control decks, you will see this card in aggro decks, you will see this card in mid-range decks, and not only like as a 1, 2, or 3 off, you will always see it, or should always see it as a 4 off in these decks.
Yeah, also a great race, like East Fork.
Yeah.
Like that should be the best race in nature. If I don't completely miss something, and yeah, you have good evolutions for it, like mainly Fighter Dual Fang, that can threaten to gain you even more mana and be like a double breaker. And yeah, I think like a few years back, we probably would have changed silver and bronze medal and say like, yeah, Hulkus is just the better of the two. It actually gives you card advantage, but yeah, it's the thing is you sometimes you don't really see the advantage Bronze Tribe gives you, but because like late in the game, it's definitely the worst card. But if you just compare them like on turn 3, I will always play Bronze Tribe if I have the chance to play either of the two. I would always go for Bronze first, because you can use Hulkus later on as you want. It will do the same thing for you early game as it does late game. But like Bronze Tribe, like you said, the turn advantage is so big. Like just playing something that you weren't supposed to play that turn, like that's so big. Like just being a turn ahead of the opponent is so good.
Yeah. Even like, and even if you start, you are like 2 turns ahead. You had 5 mana where your opponent was like at 3, then keeping up at 4, and getting you ahead in the Lost Soul race. This card, as you said, does so much. Even on like the later turns when you don't have it on turn 3, even on like turn 4 or 5, this card is still really good and better than Aqua Hulkus, I would say. Of course, when you are in top deck mode, then Aquarolcus is better than Brosam Tribe, but yeah, when you are a top deck mount and aren't like winning the game already, or aren't, also you have basically either won or lost the game before that, and that's why the early turns are so much more crucial. And yeah, that's why we ranked Brosam Tribe higher.
Also another positive, like nature has so many like charger effects in general. But why Bronzam Tribe is like clearly the best is because one, it doesn't affect your hand size. Like you don't go minus
Yeah,
for the ramp like we do with like Fairy Life or Poisonous
poisonous.
Mushroom.
Yeah,
And also it gives you the body, like yeah, Poisonous also gives you the body, but sadly goes like minus in card advantage, and Bronzam Tribe's like the perfect middle ground, like gives you the mana advantage while not losing any card advantage and having a body that you can use on later in the game to do like good stuff.
yeah. So before we get to the first place, the gold medal, we have some honorable mentions, and these are Aqua Coral. This is a nice card name, maybe, but it's a combination of Aqua Surfer and, of course, Coral. Yeah, we have Gonta. Also, we have Berserker Seal Dragon. We could have like put up like 5, 6, 7, 8 more cards on this list, like some of the miraculous spells, but usually we only do 3 here. And again, with starting at the left side with Aqua Surfer and Coal, you will see this card in basically every water deck, I would say. Even control decks have picked up the Aqua Surfer for a defensive option, and even to bounce maybe some of your own creatures to get in, to replay them to get an advantage. You definitely have seen it in the past few months, I would say, that Aqua Surfer is getting more and more play in control decks. And Coal, of course, your typical mid-range card, which has fallen a bit out of favor. So if you would have looked only at Coal, it wouldn't be in our honorable mentions, but we again, as in our top 10 water cards, decided to put these cards together because they have a similar purpose, but are being played in different styles of decks, I would say.
Yeah, maybe I will pick up on the Gonta next, and just it doesn't do much, but like what it does it perfectly. Like it's a vanilla basically. Yeah, the line of text isn't really considered an effect. It's just like the clause that it comes into mana tapped. And like the stats, 2 mana 4K is so big. Like normally with stats like these, it should cost like 3, like the other multi-civs that came out in DM12, or you have an like drawback condition attached to it, like Bloody Skido, the 4K blocker, when it wins a battle it dies, something like that. And that Gonta doesn't have any drawback and is so powerful, like dodges a lot of the fire mass removal, like the power-based removal, like Burst Shot and Searing Wave, namely. Dodging these and just going face, like, yeah, I think it's one of the key reasons why Fire Nature Rush is so good, and like Rock Aggro also plays him. Like any Fire Nature aggressive deck that just wants to attack will play this card. Yeah, it's not special, but it's very good at what it does.
Yeah, and mostly when it comes down on turn 2, it will keeps on attacking even into the later games. But even if you are at like 3 or 4 mana, you don't have like anything which can go up like with the 4K. If you have like maybe like Trash Queller, for example, which comes to mind now. Yeah, it's like 4 mana 5K, which can block Gonta, but you don't really want to play the Trash Queller on like turn 4 because it sets you back a mana, and you in your other control or mid-range decks, you just don't have an answer until like turn, I don't know, 5, 6 maybe
5
for
mostly.
this card.
Yeah, the typical 4K cards and like other decks are like 5 mana, like Farliga or maybe Illusionary
Phobos,
Folk.
even at 6.
Yeah, so something like that. Like definitely not like in turn 2, 3, or 4 that you can really answer it.
Yeah, and again, really good races. We didn't talk about the Aqua Surfer race, which is also like the best in water, I would say, together with Coral, Cyberlord, and Liquid People, and also Gonta with Human Beast Folk. Again, like the two best races. And Fire, you could argue maybe Armored Dragon, which we have like our next card is another really good race. But yeah, also the races are always fitting, or seems to be always fitting with these cards.
Yeah, that's true.
And yeah, speaking of Armored Dragon, Berserker Dragon on the right side, has 4 effects, and yeah, this card can just lock your opponent out of the game. Especially when you played like a Lost Soul the turn before, and then have a Berserker Dragon. You just answer everything your opponent is playing from that turn on, and they basically have to remove the Berserker Dragon first with a discard spell, and then they can play some creatures again, because everything you play will just get removed instantly by this card. It is again getting played in control and mid-range type decks. In aggro decks, maybe not so much. You would opt for like a cheaper card, like similar card like Jigals or maybe Trinken. First, you don't really care about the attacking untapped creatures because you want to go for the shields. But again, every like mid-range and fire, every mid-range and control deck which plays fire mostly plays like 1 or 2 copies of this card.
Yeah, it's also so versatile. Like you said, it can lock down the opponents like aggro decks. If they don't have a way to discard it, then it's basically a free Tarot Pit every turn. And if they can't deploy like multiple creatures in their turn, then they're just dead because they top deck a creature and you just kill it every turn for free. So they have to either like top deck something like Magnus that's safe from it, or like deploy multiple creatures. So yeah, can be really oppressive, but also be used as a finisher. Like if you have to go into shields, it's a quick double breaker. Especially good in tandem with like Cryptic Totem when the opponent can't use triggers. Then you only need 2 other creatures to win the game. And yeah, also the quote unquote drawback that it goes back to hand is not really a drawback. Basically makes it safe from a lot of removal. So you need to either hit it with a shield trigger or with discard spells.
Yeah, and also we see some people in our tournaments playing this card together with Fist of Forever, which is a small combo. Yeah, which you clear everything and can even after that go for 2 shields if you want to, because Fist of Forever says whenever your creature kills another creature, you untap it, and mostly your opponent won't have creatures with 8k or more on the field.
And even if there's one, you can just kill all the others first and then crash into an 8k if they have one. Yeah. So yeah, the combo is very neat.
Yeah. So our first place is left, and I think you guys by now should know, at least if you follow our tournaments and channel, should know what this card is. And our first place goes to Soulswap. This card is just something else. I don't know what the DM creators thought when making this card so cheap, even with a shield trigger ability. Basically, again, speaking in every TCG, when you can cheat in a creature into play without paying his its whole mana cost, is always something you want to go for. It will always result in something broken, and that's the same with Soulswap here. When you get out your powerful creatures, and I think the most powerful one in terms of effects I can think of is Fortress Shell. When you get it out for 3 mana instead of 9, it's just
That's
I don't
also
know.
what I wanted to say. Like
Yeah.
the bigger the creatures get, the more value it generates, because like the more discount you get on it. Like it starts
Mm,
with good stuff at 5-6 mana, like Mystrias and Forbos, that generate a lot of value, where it's already good to basically half their costs. But then it gets really ridiculous if you go up to like the Bolmedius, Bazagazir,
yeah.
Fortress Shells, where they're like supposed to be that the only play in your turn, but when you can play that and follow it up with something else, yeah, like you said, really broken stuff happens. And
Yeah.
yeah, definitely a fitting number one spot. I think it's with Bombers Are Banned, it's unarguably the best card in the game. And also, I think it's like a double-edged sword. Like on one side, it's this broken, annoying card that just enables so much stupid stuff. But also on the other hand, like a lot of creative decks aren't really possible without this card, because some
Mm,
cards are just like you could take Fortress Shell, for example. We said it's like the most broken, prominent example. I would argue, I think without Soulswap it isn't that competitively viable. Like maybe
yeah.
you could find some way to make it work, but it won't, like, as the deck type as we know it, it wouldn't work without it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And um, even the versatility again, coming to speak of in which decks you want to play those cards, you want to play it in like mid-range decks, in control decks, in aggro decks, because it can not only be used to swap your own creatures, also to swap your opponent's creatures when you need to get rid of a powerful card like Mystrias, for example, and you don't have anything else. If you want to get rid of a blocker for this turn to swing for game, it's a defensive option when it comes out of your shield trigger, recycling either your own Aqua Surfer or Skysword, or even swapping out when you don't have your own target, swapping out an opponent's creature so it can't attack. Um, just so much versatility again here, and really the minor drawback here in like a non-evolution creature from the mana zone. It's like
It doesn't really matter.
yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. It would be even more busted if you could choose an evolution creature, of course. But there are like so many. When you discard, there are so many possibilities to or angles to nerf this card. If you look at the mana cost, it's just absurdly cheap. You need to, in my opinion, nerf the mana cost. Then you can just remove the shield trigger. This card would still be broken. Again, this card basically, although it says it costs 3 mana, it basically only costs 2 mana, because the creature you get from your battle zone into your mana zone is, if it's not a multicolor card, it's untapped, so you can use it again. So it basically only costs, in quote, 2 mana to play it. And also, when swapping out a creature, you don't have to have the mana cost when you start casting the card. For example, when we look at Fortress Shell, you don't have to have 9 mana, you have to only have 8, because if you swap out a creature, then you have 9 mana, and then you can swap out your Fortress Shell from your mana zone and play it. So it basically, even in some terms of mana ramping, mana acceleration, gets you ahead, gets down a creature one turn earlier, and yeah, it's just every line of text is like broken.
The card basically does it all. Like another
Yeah.
thing you didn't mention yet, like even if it said only you could use it only on yourself, it would still be played, because like that's the main purpose. It's
Mm,
like a very, very, very good bonus that you can use it on the opponent defensively. Like
yeah.
when you compare the costs, it's like a miraculous snare.
Mm,
But also it can be used on evolution creatures, like
yeah.
from the battle zone. You can't get an evolution out of the mana, but you can get rid of evolutions. So in
Mm,
this regard, it's you can say it's better than Miraculous Snare as a removal when you play it on the opponent.
mm,
Also, yeah, a very minor thing. I think you highlighted all the positive stuff it does, like needing 1 less mana and yeah, and basically being a 2-cost, but niche scenarios if like upheaval is being used, like either you or the opponent, and the opponent, like, they have Bolmedius and think, yeah, upheaval seals the game now because you don't have an answer for it. When you can use Soulswap on it, when you at least get to 3 mana, it can be a natural snare. Like, there has to be a legal target in the mana zone to get out again, but because Duel Masters, you do as much as you can, so you can Soulswap the big creature into mana, and if they are like at 3-4 mana and there's no creature to get out, it's just like a snare.
Yeah, true. Yeah, very niche. But yeah, I think it came up in like one of your matches, if I
Came up. It's very
remember.
niche. I wouldn't say that
Yeah.
this is like a selling point, but like, even like if you think the card can't get more broken, then stuff like that happens.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There are of course some cases where you, especially in your aggro deck, for example, you want to keep pressuring your opponent and are top decking, and you want to like top deck a speed attacker or want to top deck like an Aqua Hulkers, and then you top deck Soulswap. It doesn't do like anything, of course, but that's why I would recommend in your aggro decks don't run 4 Soulswaps. You would want to see it sometimes, but not all of the times.
Yeah.
I think it's a term you want to say. Yeah.
But like in controls with Sky Sword, like the combination, because like when you see Sky Sword and you manage to get like a swap into your shields, you get another Sky Sword activation that increases the chances to see another swap in your shields, and like this infinite cycle makes it like really hard for aggro decks to break through.
Yeah. Yeah, and also like in the casual environment which you talked about a bit earlier, where it enables some funny interactions, some fun decks with like Vortex Evolution cards and so on. It just enables some stuff in your casual environment, and it isn't just like all that oppressive as it is now in the competitive environment. And you can use it basically on your kitchen table.
Yeah,
to
like there are a lot of
yeah.
DM cards that are like too high costed, that cost like 6 to 8 mana, that aren't really that great if you pay full cost for them, but if you can
Yeah.
beat them out, then there are like cool, funny strategies you can do with it. And like, speaking of like the jump from like casual to competitive, I think the best example is like Halfar's Alcadeas list.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a thing that gets enabled by Soulswap, because Alcadeas has the problem that like the baits are so high costed, so
Yeah.
like you can only play a bait or Alcadeas. Like getting both in one turn is nearly impossible, and like if you play the bait, it often just eats the removal and you can't get your Alcadeas out. And with Soulswap, basically when the bait only costs 2 mana, it's not too difficult to then slap the Alcadeas on it in
Yeah.
one turn. Like that's how like other evolution creatures that are being played they are usable, because they have like 2-cost baits. Basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And the same goes for like the demon command and like Bellum, which like mostly sees play again in a casual environment, but there also Soulswap enables the demon command things, because like the cheapest demon command is 4 mana and Bellum costs 8, so you would have to pay like 12 mana. Yeah, and with Soulswap you have to pay only like 10. It's still much, but not 12. And like you said with Alcadeas, in total you have to pay 8 mana instead of 11. And also when talking about evolution creatures in Bajula, I think the armored dragons are the
Yeah,
most expensive ones. So again, the Bajula deck should always, in my opinion at least, play nature to enable like the 9 mana combination of Armored Dragon and Bajula.
that's something I immediately thought after we talked about Alcadeas and Balom. Like the next thing that pops in my head is like dragons, like 2 mana effectively for swap, and then you can even swap out Valerica that searches you the
Mm.
modular, which is nice. And also, yeah, just cheapening the cost. Like you would do the combination normally for 14 mana, and then suddenly it only costs 9. That's
Yeah.
so much more achievable. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that being said, this is our top 10 list. Maybe it will change in the future. Maybe not. We will see. Maybe we will revisit it again in a couple of years. But I think we are happy with this list for now as it stands. And yeah, do you have any final thoughts?
Not really. Like one card I think we quote unquote missed is like Cranium Clamp.
Yeah.
I think could be somewhere here, maybe in like the honorable mentions or bottom half of the stuff, but also like our IDC meta game shows that it's not like Clamp Masters as the game was titled like back in the day. I think it's not it is definitely an impactful and powerful card, but not like that the game shifts around it per se.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, because there. Yeah.
I'm happy with the list.
Yeah, true. Cranium Clamp. I think because our format is like open, we don't have like any restrictions, so everyone can play 50 cards, for example. I think Cranium Clamp isn't like that impactful as it would be in a 40 card only environment, I would say. But people have started to pick up counters against Cranium Clamp with like the arc, and also when you are in like a control mirror, Cranium Clamp isn't always the best thing to do on turn 4. Maybe you want to have like a charger to get to Lost Soul, because when your opponent has like 4 cards in hand, you play Cranium Clamp, discard, your opponent discards his worst two ones, and then follows it up later with a Lost Soul. You don't gain like anything. So in like a control mirror match, you maybe want to even charge the Cranium Clamp to get to Lost Soul, which at least came up for my Ruby list. Of course, like in other control mirrors where your opponent is playing like Bronze Trap into Sky Sword, then only has 2 cards in hand, then Cranium Clamp is of course really great. But yeah, it's really dependable on what the metagame is at the moment, and if you have like any restrictions and so on. Yeah.
Like it really depends. Like against Hydro Hurricane, if they go all in like for the Mistria's play, Clamp often like punishes them, or like Fortress of Phobos when they go for Bronze Arm Sky Sword, that leaves them vulnerable to Clamp. But like oftentimes, like you said, like if the opponent has like 3, 4, 5 cards, then Clamp doesn't do too much because the opponent just chooses to discard the worst cards, or like the cards that even are good in the graveyard, to recycle them later. And it's also not great versus like aggro, because I think like you said, the adaptation is that like every modern aggro deck chooses to play at least one Archie de la Serna, even if the decks don't play nature at all, like Lightwater Alzunos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, just like another example, I had a match against Xboom in our championship IDC where we just played like Energy Stream turn 3, then I played Eureka Charger turn 4, and then I have like 5 cards in hand, and your opponent's playing Cranium Clamp. I'm like, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
no problem. And yeah, and I think with this being said, we have been close to 1 hour now, and I think it's fitting for like a top 10 cards overall to talk a bit more about the individual cards and why they end up here, or might not end up here, like you said with the Cranium Clamp. And yeah, I hope you guys liked our list, and if you have like other suggestions, other rankings, maybe you have your own top 10 list, please write it down in the comment down below. We will look at every comment you write, and if it's something nice, we will answer. If you're not, we don't answer. No, just write everything you want, and we would be happy to come back to you and even give us suggestions about other possible video ideas. Maybe you have like another idea about a top 10 I don't know, something cards that we can do. And yeah, write it in the comments down below. And that's it for me, for us. So guys, have a great day, and we see you in the next video. Bye.